So the State Board of Education is currently working on the evaluation rubrics. It's discussed in the analysis. And so because they're still currently working on that, what I can do is get back with you in terms, follow up with you in terms of where the state's at on that. In terms of the LCAP plans, though, the way that LCFF is designed, the LCAP plans are reviewed by the local county of education, the local county office of education. So the district would develop their LCAP plan approved by their local school boards, and then the local county office of education will review and approve those LCAP plans.
Do we give guidance to local counties of education in terms of this regard or not? I mean, are they just simply?
I'd like to say yes, but I don't have that information with me at the moment, but I can follow up with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Senator Block.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a lot of the bills I come in here, and I know just from reading the bill and talking to folks, and some really good folks have come in to see me about this bill, where I'm going to be. This has been a tough one because I think all of us, the pro and the con, all share the same goal, and that is kids succeeding and kids reading. Knowing the author, I've known him for many years in San Diego, and he cares deeply about the children and how they progress in schools. And we have some very successful districts in San Diego County and some very unsuccessful districts. That said, as a former school board member, I've always believed very strongly in local control, that these are decisions that school board members primarily should be making. And there are dysfunctional school boards. So there are some things the state has to step in and say, no, this is what you must do. As a former teacher, and this is a long, long time ago, but I always found that the less directive the state was, the better I could teach. It would free me up to teach well. And hopefully I was a good teacher. There are probably bad teachers who need as much direction as possible from the state. But I'm not sure more direction is what they need as much as more professional development or movement out of the profession altogether. And to some extent, this bill would accomplish that goal. And I support those efforts. Lastly, in my role as Education Budget Subcommittee Chair, 3 years ago, we approved a major undertaking by the governor and the state to fund local control. And the local control funding formula has been an enormous shift in policy, and policy really comes out of how you budget something, to giving more emphasis to local control and setting up these local control action plans. And 3 years into it now, are these action plans perfect? Absolutely not. Are they even really good? In some places, yes. In some places, no. But I worry about abandoning this major effort in only the 3rd year. We do that a lot up here where we're pretty impatient, and we should be because our kids' future is at stake. But I'm not sure that serves all the children of the state well if we abandon every new initiative 2 or 3 years into its into our attempt to make it work. So as you can tell, I'm still really torn on this. I am not sure, I may end up laying off just, I'm not sure how I want to vote on this. But I applaud the author and those who came to my office because we need to do something. The only question is this, in light of the fact that we've moved toward adding more control to locals, is a state mandate here the right way to do it? And I'm not ready to say, no, it's not the right way, but I'm not sure it is. So I just wanted to explain that. No question, really.
Okay.
And if I can respond, Madam Chair, could I?
Sure.
You know, I've served in this committee, and I've heard all the debates, and I've worked with the teachers on so many issues, evaluations, all this other stuff. I have worked very, very hard to make this, to stay away from the prescriptiveness in nature. This is how we need to teach. Stay away from that. This bill doesn't do that. This bill gives all the power to the local governments, but it makes reading a priority where it's not being made a priority. It involves parents. Now, the current LCAP structure, I'll be, you know, in communities like mine, parents don't even know what an LCAP is. and they're supposed to participate in the designing of the priorities. Honestly, parents in my community, they want to take their kids to school and trust them to a teacher, say, please teach them to read, please educate my child. I want to be involved, but you got to involve me. But we have the Parent Institute for Quality Education, or PIQE, whose job is to simply bring parents to the table and say, look, you need to be involved in education. That's where our districts are. The districts I represent, and many more across the state, don't have parents at the table. This brings them to the table more directly than anything else we can do. The LCAP doesn't do that. The LCAP is deficient, and I know when I looked at this, I said, hey, we kind of moved away from getting involved in education, but when I saw the way this bill is designed and what it does and how it involves everybody, this is not going to duplicate efforts. It's going to enhance them. All the tools that we're already following, we're going to enhance them with a directive saying reading is this important in the state of California, and every district, if you are failing, you have to develop an individualized plan. Right now, the system says, let's measure district-wide. What happens? The lowest performing kids are either weeded out of the program, they drop out, and we forget about them that way. We're looking at district-wide. Imagine them saying, you know what, this kid has no future, I'm done with him. This is happening right now in our state. It's happening to kids where the programs aren't equipped to deal with them and don't want to, and let's start working on an individual basis with kids. Yeah, we talked about class sizes, yes. You know, class sizes have been proven to lower class sizes get better results, but at some point we don't have all the money in the world to get the kind of results we're looking at by more individualized instruction. There is a point where, there is a breaking point there. I agree. That's why this bill is also talking about reallocation of funds, looking at, okay, how can we do this more efficiently? How can we make this a priority in the educational community? I believe that if the Senate gets behind this issue and makes it a priority, all those issues will be resolved simply with your vote today to make this a priority. We can move down this direction and get every single district to align with our goals to make reading a priority in these years of education. Thank you, Senator.
Senator Hancock, did you have a comment?
Yeah. I am actually trying to sort out the different strands here because there seems to be so much controversy around it. I believe that the goal of this is exactly on target. In the years that I spent with the U.S. Department of Education, which was during the Clinton years, we were very clear that one of the standards should be every child reading well and independently by the end of the third grade, because if they can't do that, they begin to think of themselves as failures. And as we know, none of us like going to places where we feel like failures. So we stop going at some point in our heads or even with our feet, as too many of our kids do. So although I appreciate the local control funding formula, because we were kind of running amok as a legislature dictating this, that, and the other class that we were going to mandate, it seems to me that a broad goal like this is not inappropriate, because reading is, in fact, the key to everything else. Now, as I read the bill, seems to only ask that some diagnostic tools be developed, but it doesn't say which. Am I correct in that?
Doesn't say which.
And that the list of tools be posted. And then, in looking at it, it doesn't seem to say much that's very prescriptive about parent involvement. So there's no particular program, is that correct?
There isn't. The idea is to involve them with the solution. And when the educational community comes up with the instructional program, the parents are going to be involved in administering the program. In other words, if it requires reading to the child, if it requires the parent, when he's at home, encouraging the child to read, the parent will have their input where they're capable of participating.
Okay, right, so the parents will be called in. Now, that seems like an important piece too, and I know it's a piece that is often overlooked. We give lip service to parent involvement. Oh, yes, we want that. However, it's time intensive, and quite honestly, in some cases, it can open up a situation where a parent where you don't have a functional home. And that's probably a good thing for the school to know, so they can build supports around that student. The whole community schools concept, it seems to me, would fall into this. On the other hand, there are many parents who just really don't have a clue or haven't been empowered. And one of the people I work closely with at the Department of Education was Hispanic. He had grown up in South Texas. His mother had a third-grade education. She did not speak English, but she told me his life had been shaped by the fact that she made him and his brother sit down at the dining room table every day after dinner and do their homework. And then they had to explain their homework to her. And he said she didn't really understand a lot of the math and the other stuff we were doing, but she knew from our body language whether we did. And she would sometimes say, you don't. You go back and study that more. And that was really a very life-changing thing for me, to realize that kind of parent involvement, which doesn't require a PhD. It just requires somebody knowing that it's a good thing to do, right? So how do we do that? And am I right that this program would allocate funds specifically to develop a reading plan that involves the parents, and it might involve things like professional development for teachers so they know how to do that? Or, I just don't see it here. I'm trying to figure out what we're actually doing. It's a grant program?
Well, again, when you're working with the educational community and they come and they raise issues, and initially the bill didn't have that, but we accepted amendments to get the bill further along, and it didn't necessarily take away their opposition, which is very sad to me that I think this can be done on its own merit, but I also am practical. I understand that in some cases, some additional funding would be needed in different parts of the state. So we did fashion the concept of a grants program in areas where you do have problems with funding districts and smaller districts. So we did add it that way. I mean, it's so important to me that I'm trying to find a way to move this bill forward. And honestly, I think you understand the issue very well, as members of this committee understand this issue. And I want to work with this committee to find a way to make this bill palatable to the legislature and find a way to move it forward to raise awareness. I mean, I think it's worthy of us to make reading a priority and say that we want to work on this issue, and killing the bill today won't do that.
Well, I would agree with that. This bill, the motion would be due pass to appropriations. I would think so. A lot of financial implications here.
There might be, and I'd like appropriations to weigh in on whether there are financial implications or not.
I don't know. It's a little confusing here, because you talked about grants in the bill. We didn't read about grants in the bill. And you talked about, you didn't say whether or not you're going to take the amendments.
Well,
So if you don't take the
we made amendments.
If you don't take the amendments, then it's due pass to appropriations. If you do take the amendments, then it's just,
The committee's amendments pretty much make the bill a non-issue, so we didn't
you're
want
not
to take.
taking the amendments.
Not the committee
You're
amendment.
not taking the amendments. So,
It would pretty much kill the bill. It would gut the bill and make it.
well, I mean, let's go back. Let's go back and talk about this, because we have spent and given you we've given us all.
I appreciate that,
Yeah,
Madam Chair.
and we really appreciate where you are coming from, because I don't think there's anybody on the dais here or anybody in the audience that does not disagree that third grade is kind of the point whereby students' ability to succeed in their education happens. And, but we just disagree with how you want to get there. Because we have come through, and we're still in transition, as Dr. Pan has suggested, from No Child Left Behind and all this other really prescriptive sanction-like programming for the last generation, and we're moving toward, ESSA, where we're going to be measuring continuing improvement. Now, that may be just too loosey-goosey for some people, but we're not looking at proficiency, we're looking at performance levels, et cetera. So we are doing this kind of gradual movement away from banging you on the head and saying, if you don't do this, I'm going to take this. We're trying to incentivize districts in California, and it is a learning experience, because I agree with you, LCAPs in some districts do not mean anything, because, they just follow the format and say what people want to hear, but when you get down in the nitty-grits, nothing is going on that's different than what has gone on in the past. We are in the process of Rubik's, developing an evaluation system, accountability system, that will be out in October. So we are still in this, transition, and how they all evolve will take another couple of years to evaluate. But in the meantime, we've got kids coming through our system, and we do need to address their needs, their academic needs. So my issue with this is that there is nothing in this bill that precludes districts or LCAPs to say, reading first, I want an IEP for all these kids who are not performing at a certain level. There's nothing in the bill that LCAPs can't already do. Is there?
Just, Madam Chair, just to clarify, because it is your staff that recommends a grants program.
Yes, we did.
And I don't understand what a grants program is. I understand that it's only for those districts that want to participate in the program, and we would give them money if they want to participate in the program, which would defeat the purpose of making this a state priority and focusing on all those kids that are largely ethnic minorities that we're leaving behind. I can't do that and say, well, we're going to help these kids, but not these.
I understand. So there's kind of a cross conversation going on here in terms of we all agree with the goal. Some of us might like your IEPs, but there's nothing in any kind of rules or codes that I know about that prevents districts from doing that, right? So, there's other kinds of little smaller things. You don't make a difference between English learners, which we give more money to, versus native English speakers, that kind of thing. And diagnostic tools are all available. We know about that. So we're just if you want to just do a statement about reading, fine, and figure out how to do it later. I don't know. I can't figure it. I can't work it out here in terms of how we get there.
If I can respond, Madam Chair, I can't possibly know what you're thinking until you let me know.
Right.
And you're telling me that we're agreeing, everybody's agreeing, but I just don't understand why can't we move forward?
I think we're all agreed to the point of agreeing with you in terms of third grade proficiency, reading, not even proficiency, third grade.
And developing a plan of action, do we agree on that?
A plan of action which, could include an IEP if those districts wanted to do it. But You know, I don't know any other, it's, what I'm saying to you is too prescriptive. This identifies this particular plan to do this particular job. There may be other ways.
We have left it so wide open, all we're saying is develop a plan, include the parents, the educational community. I don't know how less prescriptive we can make it and still give people direction on improving reading in our state. I don't know how to do that. If you're saying we're just going to make it a resolution and say improve reading, I don't know. I think we've been doing that for 100 years in this country, and it's not making a difference. I don't know what the fear is to venture out and work with our educators to employ best practices on we already have the tools to measure. Okay, they're doing it. We paid for that. It's done. All right, we don't have to fund the assessment because everybody will agree they're out there. But what nobody can agree to is developing a plan just for, bring the student in and the individual student and say, okay, if you want, you know, to work with children, we all agree they're all different. They all learn different. They all have different needs. They come from different homes. This addresses their differences instead of just saying, district, do whatever you want to improve reading. I don't know. This gives so much flexibility to the districts to work within their own communities that are so different student populations. Okay, employ whatever strategy that fits for your district, but improve reading.
So that becomes a resolution and not prescriptive.
A resolution, again, is saying we support reading.
We're going around in circles. So let's call this, if there's no more questions, there's a motion on the bill. The bill has been moved.
This is, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
This is item number 3, SB 1145. The motion is due pass to appropriations. Lou?
No.
Lou, no. Block? Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff? Huff, aye. Leyva? Mendoza? Monning? Pan? Vidak?
Aye.
Vidak, aye. That's 3-1.
3-1. We'll leave the roll open for our absent members.
Thank
you. Thank you very much. Senator Allen? Item 5. Thank you. Oh, I don't know, that's a good job. No? Right. Yours is a simple bill, Mr. Allen.
I hope so. That was interesting.
Did we vote on consent? Did we do that?
Well, Madam Chair and members, this is SB 1214, which removes the sunset on the University of California's, quote, best value construction pilot program, which would otherwise expire on January 1st of 2017, and expands the authority of the UC to use best value contracting at all of its locations, in addition to its campuses and its medical centers. Now, the University of California, like many public institutions and agencies, is generally required by law to award public construction contracts to the lowest responsible bidder. Known as competitive bidding, this process encourages competition between contractors that hopefully then results in lower costs for the university. In many instances, this is indeed the case. However, for a number of larger and more complex construction contracts, there is some evidence that the lowest bidder doesn't always deliver projects on time and at a cost that matches the initial bid. Best value bidding, which permits the university to take into account other factors in addition to the quoted price when awarding a construction contract, was first permitted by the legislature on a pilot basis beginning in 2007, at that time solely at the University of California in San Francisco's campus. Now, in 2011, the legislature expanded this pilot project to all the UC campuses and for any construction project in excess of $1 million. Now, evidence compiled in a report to the legislature by the UC suggests that best value is far more effective at selecting contractors who will provide the lowest finished cost, as opposed to selecting contractors on the basis of the lowest first cost that they're at first proposing. The qualifications and management skills required for each particular project are specifically tailored, and contractors have no reason to lower their bids by leaving out important parts of a comprehensive delivery plan because they will be evaluated on the quality of their overall plan and approach. Bidders recognize that their efforts to provide a realistic bid based upon their experience and abilities will be acknowledged, allowing them to then better work with the university early on to prevent safety or labor deficiencies, defective work, and cost or schedule overruns, change orders, et cetera. So since 2011, when the Best Value Pilot Program for all campuses began, UC has awarded 320 construction contracts totaling $4 billion. Of these, 40 contracts totaling $1.19 billion have been awarded under the Best Value Pilot, 13% of the overall projects, but 29% of the overall contract value. The Best Value contracts include classrooms, student housing, laboratories, medical facilities, et cetera. The UC has estimated now that these projects completed pursuant to the Best Value Pilot resulted in a net savings of approximately 3%. These projects came in on time, on budget, and met the university's high-quality requirements. With change orders that are constrained to owner requests to either scope or schedule, savings result from cost avoidance due to lack of bid protests, claims, litigation, or project delays. This evidence, I believe, is quite clear. The UC's Best Value Pilot Program fosters improved cooperative project administration, better quality work, better qualified contractors, more on-time completion, and on-budget performance. So I respectfully ask for your vote on SB 1214, and I have the University of California here in support and to help answer any questions.
Thank you. In support of the bill.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. Jason Murphy on behalf of the University of California here in strong support of the bill. I think the Senator summarized it very well. This is the third bill now in a series of extensions, two extensions of the pilot that started back in 2006, 2007. In each instance, the reports have shown that this has been a very popular and successful program for the university. I think we know that there have not been difficulties with regard to the way these bids have been put forward by virtue of there being no bid protests that have been made as a result of these bids moving forward. So I think we've made good on our promises, and we're back for a sunset removal. I did bring along my colleague Chris Hornbeck from the Office of the President, who manages our construction services, to describe a little bit about the most recent experience.
Okay.
Hello, thank you. It's an honor being here. Chris Hornbeck, Director of Construction Service, University of California. I'd like to reiterate some of the statistics and the value of this program. So 40 projects we've used this on in the last 4 years. That's about 10 a year. We use it very judiciously. It's not something we cast about. We take this very seriously. It's used on the most complex and difficult projects where a partnership with the contractor and cooperation is very important. Important to note is the premium bid accepted because of this program is only 0.6%. What that means is if we had disregarded the best quality score and just used price to award the contract, we've ended up paying a premium of 0.6% on that low bid at the time of the bid. We found at the end of the project with final costs coming in that we are saving the 3% net value. And that's about $9 million a year with the current program. What's really important about this program is the reduced claims and the on-time delivery and predictability of the program. For us to be able to predict and be confident that a project's going to come in on budget and on time is of incredible value. You know, in a commercial world, time is money. In our world, time is our mission statement. And our mission is teaching, research, and public service. What this allows us to do is have predictability and confidence that the dorm room come fall will be available, and those 700 students will have a bed and 3 square meals. This means the women's clinic is going to be open. This means the hematology clinic is going to be open. This means the lecture hall is going to be ADA accessible, and it's going to be safe for our students. So that predictability really reinforces our mission, and encourage your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In support of the, others in support of the bill? Is there any opposition? Are there any questions from members? The bill has been moved. Please call the roll.
This is item number 5, SB 1214. The motion is due pass to appropriations. Liu?
Aye.
Liu, aye. Block? Aye. Block, aye. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff? Huff, no. Leyva? Leyva, aye. Mendoza? Monning? Monning, aye. Pan? Aye. Pan, aye. Vidak?
Aye.
Vidak, aye.
7-1.
Thank you. Thank you, Senators. I appreciate it.
Leave the roll open for an absent member, but the bill is out. Okay. Oh, Senator Block, you're moving, huh? You have item 8. That's all right. That's okay. SB 1357.